find a few people that you will say to them, I want to mentor you for the next 4 years. I want to teach you everything I know.
Constitution is a result of the people's thoughts. For example, in America, your constitution begins like this: we the people. But in this kingdom, it begins I.
The woman you're looking for, brother, doesn't exist. She's in your head. Your job is to take the raw material you married and cultivate it into the woman in your head. Too much for you.
Hello and welcome. This is Oracle Television Network, and this is the Spiritpreneur Business Talk Show. My name is Hans Peter Nkansah. Approximately 12 months ago, the world lost a true diplomat and a kingdom ambassador, Dr. Myles Munroe. Dr. Myles Munroe died in a plane crash alongside his wife and 7 other people on board on his way from Freeport to an international global summit. What a great way to celebrate the legacy that Dr. Myles Munroe left the world than to speak with one of his own very spiritual daughters. In the studios today is Monique Clark. And Monique is one of Dr. Myles Munroe's spiritual daughters, and we are happy to have her here. Thanks for joining us, Monique.
Thank you very much. Great to be here. I'm doing good.
How are you holding
up
today?
Holding up, doing what my spiritual father, Dr. Munroe, would expect for me to do, hold up, and to carry on.
Approximately 12 months ago, how did you take the news?
Like so many others, very tragic, not knowing what to do, not knowing where to go, not knowing who to call. So very tragic.
Where were you when you heard the story?
I was actually just finishing up from a women's conference that I do annually in South Florida. And I got a call from Freeport stating that Dr. Munroe's plane had gone down. Of course, to my first thought, it was like, it's impossible. Right. This is Dr. Myles Munroe. His plane just can't go down. Right. So was spending time with family.
Wow. But how did you take it? Did you break down? Did you, I hear you were knocked out.
Immediately, there was a breakdown. For me, it wasn't a, it was the feeling that, okay, there's some truth to this, right, based on the source that brought it to me. So the feeling was just very, very awkward, immediate breakdown.
Can you still believe it?
No. I like to picture in my mind or think that he's on a long trip, that he's somewhere in another part of the world doing what he was born to do.
So you're living in denial.
And sometimes that's what my husband says. And it's not so much of a denial. It's more so of, wow, this is the person that you've looked up to for so many years. This is the person who's helped you and cultivated you to be the person that you are now. This is the person that you never hoped or never thought would go away. So.
Wow. How did you meet Dr. Myles Munroe?
Through the ministry. My mother actually started out as a member so many years ago. Okay. And I remember as a teenager him just embracing our family and just making us feel a part.
Wow. You were born in the Bahamas?
Born and raised in Freeport, Grand Bahama. Yep.
When did you leave?
I left on my way to college. I think I was about 17. So graduated high school and left to explore the world.
What you doing now?
Right now, I am married to Mr. or Pastor Samuel Clark, the mother of 5 beautiful children.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And, you know, just going through life, walking in my purpose and what it is that God has called me to do.
Walking in your purpose.
Yes.
We know it's one of Dr. Myles's signature programs.
Yes.
Walking in your purpose.
Yes.
So when you say walking in your purpose, what exactly is you walking in your purpose?
Well, let me start by this quote from Dr. Munroe. And it says, where purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable.
Right.
So for me, not wanting to be in a situation where at all abuse takes place, right, or I allowed my life. So to discover my purpose at a young age was very important and was embedded in me through the teachings of Dr. Munroe. So my purpose as it relates to the world of beauty, I'm very involved as it relates to changing the lives of the women that I come into contact with, teaching the principles of success as it relates to beauty, business, and balance. And, ministry. It's all ministry. It's all a part of God's plan and
So
my
you're a
purpose.
pastor too.
I think they have attached that title to me more so recently.
Do you not believe God's called you into the ministry
I believe that He has absolutely called me into the ministry
of the pastor?
of the pastoring alongside my husband.
Just a little bit about ministry. How long have you been, pastoring alongside your husband?
I would say it's been the past 8 years. And I like to call it ministry and ministering too, because there's so many women out there that I identify with, so many women that are broken, have been in some form of abuse or neglect, or have not really begin to tap into who they are and to understand their potential. So the principles of Dr. Monroe have very much so come alive even before his death. And being trained by the best, as we would say, has an advantage. And so I completely use that advantage as it relates to ministering and being in ministry.
Growing up, one of the very first books I read from Dr. Miles Monroe was The Purpose and Power of a Woman.
Yes.
Everybody keeps asking, why not man? I'm like, I don't know. The book said, and the men who love him. I'm like, well, I figured probably would be a great place to start. But I believe you read that book.
Yes.
How well has that book impacted you and now that you're in ministry?
That book is the epitome of everything as it relates to a call on a woman's life. Here's the funny thing about that book. That was the first book that Dr. Monroe gave to my husband, though. His philosophy,
in the spirit.
You were. His philosophy and thinking was that if the men understood their women, then it makes life a little bit easier. And he understood that. He completely understood that. That's why he sewed so much into the purpose of women. And he displayed that in the life, in his own life with his wife. So he was a walking model of that book, and I think that is one of the more powerful, because if you can understand a woman, for you men, it makes life a whole lot easier.
Man, So, we're going to talk about Dr. Miles in a bit, but, you talked about the wife, literally said about Dr. Was she a doctor?
Pastor.
Pastor Ruth Monroe.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about her, since you were kind of close to the family.
She was an amazing, amazing woman. I don't just say that lightly. She was what we call a quiet storm. And we say that because she was definitely the neck that made the head turn as it relates to, let's just say, being the brain power. Everybody saw Dr. Monroe as that person that was forefront, and he was who he was. But he would tell us often that he gave credit to the woman that stood behind him, stood beside him, stood with him in everything. There was never moments and times where he did not respect and understand the position that she held. And she also knew that she was born with a purpose. And her purpose was to walk with Dr. Monroe.
That's amazing.
And she understood that clearly.
Wow.
She understood that clearly.
So tell me about her shopping experience. She told me she loves to shop. In fact, you guys love to shop.
Yes, that was something that we had, that we loved to do. It was something that came very easy for us.
Of course.
And it took her away from so much, sometimes the busy, the ministry part of it. And it gave her the opportunity to let her hair down and to relax and just enjoy it. But she was also very mindful and a very amazing shopper. Very wise. Very wise. Also very special, and always loved to bless others, and so many pieces that she even blessed me with as we shopped. So she was a very giving person. Very giving person.
Tell us about the time that Dr. Miles was livid because you took his wife shopping, and you wouldn't show up at the airport.
Yeah, so there's this time in Fort Lauderdale where we went shopping. And we were supposed to meet back up before the flight. Ample time before the flight. And so we were in our favorite store, Steinmart, her, myself, and her daughter, Charissa. And Dr. Monroe was calling, phone ringing, and
Right.
I had to pick it up. And so my husband was on the other line saying, Papa is very, like, where are you guys? Very upset.
Right.
So we were like, tell him to relax. We've already checked in. No worries, no concerns. He takes the phone from my husband and he said, daughter, where are you? And I said, Papa, we love you. We'll see you in a few minutes. Quickly got him off the phone, rushed to Miami Airport from Fort Lauderdale
Right.
with no time left.
Wow.
So we get to the airport, and needless to say, that was probably the first time I really felt the wrath of Dr. Miles Monroe. So he was a little mad, and I tried to hug him to say, Papa, you're about to get on a plane. You can't be angry at me. And he said, I absolutely can. You kept my girls out. So I took full responsibility for their shopping, which was fine and fun. It was good.
But
So-
they were shopping.
They were shopping. But hey, as an armor bearer, you bear the armor. you take whatever is given. And it was fine.
Wow.
It was fine.
Wow.
But those were some of the times that you cherish and some of the times that you miss quality time.
Wow. What does Dr. Miles mean to you?
I've had that question asked before, quite time often. And to sum it up is so hard, so difficult. Because honestly, he meant the world to me.
Wow.
I have my natural father, and my natural father's been here. But there was a void from my childhood to
Right.
teenage that Dr. Monroe filled. He understood how to love. He understood the needs of a daughter.
Right.
He understood the needs as it relates to a daughter wanting to ensure that she always makes her papa proud.
Right.
And he never once made me feel that I wasn't his biological child. But there's also something that he taught us, the power of adoption. And really through the power of adoption, it's even more significant than a biological child.
Wow.
Because when you go after a child and you adopt a child, that child is hand-picked. So that makes it even more special. It's the relationship with us and God. God handpicks us
That's right.
and adopts us into
Right.
his kingdom.
That's right.
So I felt and I feel still very privileged to, to say, I am a daughter, a spiritual daughter of Dr. Monroe.
Wow.
And he never really differentiate between a spiritual and natural daughter. He called me daughter. He, alluded to it. His natural daughter and I, very close.
Wow.
Very close. More than just friends, but sisters. We understand that. So, a very special place
Tell
to
us
be.
a little bit about the family.
The family is just amazing. They've always embraced us.
Right.
They've always understood our roles as it relates to their parents. Charles and Charissa are holding up, carrying on the legacy of their parents,
Yeah.
doing what it is you would expect Miles Monroe's children to do. And so, we're very proud of them as it relates to them doing their best and walking out their part of the legacy, picking up the baton and carrying it. And it's a very hard place to be.
Right.
And so we understand and we keep them covered because the world expects Miles Monroe children to be Miles and Ruth Monroe,
exactly.
but they're not.
Yeah.
They're individuals.
Right.
They have their lives, they have their calls, and they have their take on life.
Right.
So keep them lifted in that because they have to be who God has called them to be.
Right.
And there will be tribulations, there will be trials. They're not perfect, but they understand that their father and mother created a legacy, and they want to do their best to ensure that legacy continues.
Yeah.
And so they keep us as spiritual children involved,
Right.
which is very good, very good.
So I understand that you are very close to the family.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of pictures that you put up on Facebook that I've seen. And I'll let you staged this particular picture. Tell us about that night.
We were in Bradenton, Florida, and we were getting ready to leave. He had just spoken. We were getting ready to go and sign books. And there was just a spiritual high. We were
Right.
so excited. And everyone had taken a picture with him, and
Right.
we stood and we took the picture and took cameras from other people and let them take pictures. And then I was like, okay, Papa, don't forget me. Don't leave me out. And so he was like, okay, well, just jump on my back. And so I just jumped on his back, and my husband caught the picture, like just snapped it. And it was just, we were having fun that night because he was very excited that all of his spiritual children were there, his mentees were there. It was just very, it was always time. You were very excited. You were like a kid in the candy store every time you were in his presence. And he made time for everybody.
Did he allow everybody to jump on his back?
Probably not. But I think my husband always says that I take the risk and I do things that so many people, other people wouldn't. But that was Papa. You know, that was a side of him that, and a part of our relationship that was just very genuine, very pure, and just love. Just love.
So you say Dr. Miles was a Facebook addict. Well, I wouldn't use the word addict, but he just loved to be on Facebook. And tell us about the night, you know, at the kitchen table where you staged this picture.
The night of the picture,
right?
We were there with our sister Agatha. Agatha, who's absolutely amazing. Right. She runs the media department at which is now being renamed today, not BFM anymore, but the Miles E. Monroe Diplomat Center. Right. And we were all there having fun, and he was on Facebook. Right. And we were showing him different little secrets in Facebook and helping him to understand it more and how do you do this and how do you do that. And he said, okay, let's stage a picture. I'm about to make you guys famous. Hey. And I was like, okay. He said, let's see who can get the most likes. Right. So I'm thinking, you're Miles Monroe. You're obviously going to get the most likes. Right. So he tells Mama Ruth to get the coffee cups and let's toast to the king. And so we got the coffee cups. We toasted the king. And he said, okay, let's put it on Facebook. We made somewhat of a bet, but he doesn't gamble, that there was going to be a sister of ours out of Naples, Miss Trista. Let's see if Trista is still up. Immediately when we posted the picture, Trista was like, I can't believe you guys are doing this. So it was fun kind of poking at Trista because she wasn't there. We would have loved for her to be there. And it was just a fun time. So of course, within 10 minutes, he had over 300 likes. Everyone from Africa who you can think of was just posting. It was like, okay, all the Africans are up at night. And it was a good time. It was a good memory. So,
what's your fondest memory of Dr. Miles?
Let's see. My fondest memory. Oh my God, there are so many. I think would be the time where he spent my daughter's 8th birthday with her. Oh. It was amazing. He came into Miami, and he made that a priority. And he took her to the Cheesecake Factory. We were down in South Miami, and it was just something special because when you think of Miles Monroe, when you think of this global leader, this ambassador for the kingdom, when you think about this person, you just don't think that, hey, this person would have the time to spend. But he did, and he always made that time.
Wow, amazing. All right, we're going to go for a break real quick. When we're back, we're going to be talking to Monique still about Dr. Miles Monroe. Want to look at Dr. Miles' kingdom message, how this message impacted her. And want to look at his leadership and the succession, the gap he's left since he's not with us anymore. So we'll be back right after this. Okay, ready to go? All right. Yeah. So welcome back. This is the Spiritpreneur Business Talk Show. My name is Hans Peter Nkansah. Before we went on the break, we were talking to Monique Clark. She happens to be one of Dr. Miles's spiritual daughters, and today that we are remembering Dr. Miles, it's exactly 12 months since he passed away, and we just want to talk a little bit about Dr. Miles. And before the break, we're just digging into Dr. Miles's personal life and what he meant to Monique and a couple of other stuff. Right about now, let me ask you, Monique, you mentioned that before he departed, he kind of was already preparing you guys. Mm-hmm. He kept saying, now I can go, now I can die.
Right. Right.
Was he being prophetic about his death?
When we look back at it, we think that he was. We feel that, for Dr. Monroe to say what he said as it relates to dropping the eagles from the nest, which happened back in January of 2014.
Right.
We were all the mentees together, and he kept giving the story.
Right.
He was so, what's the word I'm looking for? Passionate about this particular story.
Right.
It made us to believe aftermath, like, okay, something must have been going on.
Right.
It's almost like a preparation. In him telling the story so passionately, he literally gave demonstrations of how the father eagle takes the eaglet, flies him to a high point, and then drops him or her off. And if the bird does not fly, then he swoops down to pick him up.
Right.
And so the father eagle goes down again, grabs him, takes him to the highest point, and then drops him.
Right.
Then the eagles fly,
Right.
eaglets fly. So for us, we related to so many of the mentees, all of us, okay, he took us to the highest point in 2014, and then his departure meant, okay, I'm not swooping down to get you.
Right.
This is it. It's time for you guys to fly on your own.
Wow.
So when we get together as mentees and we talk about it, we were literally like, wow, Papa just dropped us from the nest.
Wow.
There's no coming back.
Right.
And so that was our reality check that, okay, the times before that we could pick up the phone or send an email, that's not going to happen anymore. So now everything that he taught us before dropping us out of the nest is what we have to now embrace.
Right.
Yep.
So I was listening to an interview that he granted, and he was talking about leadership in succession, and most specifically about the fact that Jesus told his disciples, "It is expedient that I go, so that the Comforter may come." Do you think that is what he kind of did to you guys?
Well, in understanding the life of Dr. Monroe, in understanding that he lived the life of Christ, this was the model that he taught us and that he lived by daily, it all makes sense.
Right.
Did we understand it then? Absolutely. We wanted to go through every part of his life except the departure. So the departure was never a thought for us until it happened.
Right.
So I would say that, in knowing this man and knowing that the life of Christ is what he portrayed and what he instilled in us, it all makes sense now. In understanding that, okay, you get it after I'm gone, was something that he always said. So it's like, okay, we get it. We realize that he had to go. He had to go.
Do you think he had to go?
My personal opinion, which in the kingdom, as an ambassador, you don't give your personal stance. I would say this. Did he have a lot on the inside of him? Absolutely. Did I know that he had 10 years of his life still planned because that's the type of person he was? Wow. Absolutely. Did I know that he had 50 more books to write? Absolutely. Based on what he said, there was more.
Wow. Well, Dr. Miles would say that you need to die empty. And I've met a lot of Dr. Miles's spiritual sons and daughters, and they would often quote him, "You need to die empty." You think he died empty?
I think that he died he emptied out what he could in the season of his life that he had. If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
He emptied out what he had up until the day he died.
It's amazing. Tell us a little bit about his leadership style.
His leadership style, again, modeled the life of Christ. He believed in training his mentees and those around him to become agents of change, strong on, and that he actually he portrayed through his life.
Wow. So if you were to look back over the last 12 months, do you see yourself having grown, having the eaglet out of the nest?
Definitely. Definitely. Because there are things that we're doing now that we probably would not have been doing to the extent that we are now if he was here. It was more so always wanting to hear what your mentor is saying. It's always wanting to be under the tutelage. So now it's like, okay, there's no more testing.
Right.
This is it. So
Go out there and get it done.
go out and get it done. Right.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Is it the same as severing the ties with your mentor? Or this is kind of, go, but you can't be gone forever. I'm still here, kind of.
Severing the ties. I mean, the ties can never be severed.
Right.
When you sit under Dr. Miles Monroe, it is embedded.
Right.
It's in you. You take on that spirit, and you take on what your mentor, that mantle that your mentor has dropped. But there's never a sever, in my opinion, because I look at it, we've not severed ties with Jesus.
Right, never.
Never. It can't be. We can't. We don't sever ties with the kingdom. Dr. Monroe was a global leader used to advance the kingdom of God in the earth, and leadership, his leadership style was like Christ. So he exemplified that, and he reinforced it. And I think that he brought it to terms and to a place where we can understand it in this generation, and to carry it on. Yeah.
What is the personal legacy that he left for you?
The personal legacy for me would to be successful and dominate the world of beauty, which involves entertainment, which is a mountain that has to be conquered and has to be brought back to the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
So it's all about right standing, and keeping in right standing in every area, whatever area you're called to, whatever area you're called to influence. And that was my area. That is my area to influence as it relates to beauty. And beauty is not so skin deep. It's beyond that. It's the inner beauty, starting with the outer beauty, because people are all about, it's all about Hollywood, the look, the outer look. But when you can tap into a person's inner and help them to reach their purpose. Everyone was born a leader. And Dr. Monroe truly taught that and believed that everyone was born a leader.
Wow.
However, it's what you do with those leadership skills and the ability to walk in your purpose through your leadership skills.
So you traveled with him a lot?
Yeah. Yes. My husband and I took on the roles and as armor bearers, and what we did is we bared him wherever he would go. The year before he passed, he renamed the group of women that would serve him as it relates to his makeup and administrative skills when he travels, and he called us personal assistants. And it wasn't just personal assistants like the world would say. A personal assistant that we both discussed is a person that outthinks their leader. And in so many times, I was able to outthink him in the little things that made a difference. So what people didn't see or didn't understand made a difference. Him having a hot cup of tea before he speaks or right after made a difference. It helped his body to, do what needed to be done, the nutrients, and, to replenish. Just giving him a piece of fruit. And he was always so very grateful and so very thankful for the little things that made a difference.
Wow. So you were the very first member to fly his jet.
Yes, that was exciting.
Hey.
We were in Atlanta, and I had no clue. He was at a business meeting for a network marketing company, actually speaking. And he said to me, he said, "Let's go home." I said, "Let's go home where?" And he was like, "Come on, you're going to go to the Bahamas with me."
Right.
And I was like, "Okay, but I have a husband." And he said, "No problem, I'll take care of that." So he gets on the phone. He said, "Son, I'm taking my daughter." He didn't say your wife. "I'm taking my daughter home. I'm going to surprise her mom for Mother's Day." And so he said, "Do you know that you're going to be the first member to fly on the jet?" And so I was like a kid in a candy store, very excited. And we got home to the Bahamas. He called my mom personally. He said, "I need you to come and grab a package your daughter sent for me, for you." And so she showed up, and he was there, and I was there, and it was exciting. And that's what I mean. When you take a global leader like Dr. Monroe, and he finds time for his members, he finds times for, the persons that serve him. It's just the little things that always matter and always count. And those are the things that you miss most about him, his thoughtfulness and his sincerity to, to help you to become who it is that he knew God had called us to be. So, and he did that with every person he came into contact with.
You kind of took the wind out of the sail when you talked about, the thing that you miss most about him, because I was about to ask you that, but is there anything else you miss most about him?
Everything.
Oh.
There's nothing. I tell people all the time when they say, how you hold on, when you have a personal and intimate relationship as it relates to being a spiritual daughter, being a mentee with Dr. Miles and Pastor Ruth Monroe, there's none like it. My mom and Pastor Ruth would tease all the time, because every time she came back off of a trip, she would go to my mom and say, I saw my daughter today. And so they would kind of have this little thing, my daughter. So when they are so personable,
Right.
it's everything about them you miss. You miss the times when you can sit and you have breakfast or you have dinner, and he took us to places that we'd never been before to fine dine and to give us experiences that, wow, that's what a father should do. And he was just so selfless. Everything was, serving. And he acted the role of Jesus. He served. That was his way of serving.
So your husband even actually had to talk to him before you could get your hand in marriage?
Absolutely so.
Man.
Absolutely, most definitely. And Dr. Monroe made that very known on a phone call to him, that I would need to meet you. And he never, in the beginning, he didn't call him son. He didn't call him son. But it was soon after. It was soon after. So he passed his test after a
must have
year.
been very impressive.
After a year of testing,
Pastor
he's
Clark,
at Pastor.
all
Yeah,
right,
yeah. Watch out now. He got it. He got it.
Okay, so we're kind of going to be the last question.
Okay.
Sad, because I'm sure if we're going to talk about Dr. Miles,
Yeah, we would be here all
we'll be
night.
here all day. But I'm hoping to get you back in here, so
Awesome.
we talk more about him. But
Okay.
you saw him at times tired. You saw him. I don't know if you saw him ever crying.
Here's what's funny about that. Did you mention that? Yeah, I would see the times when he was a bit exhausted after preaching or teaching, after pouring out. But the last time in Bradenton, our last meeting, and we have pictures of it, I think that was the first time I saw him cry as it relates to, there was this urgency for the people to get it.
Get what?
To get the message, to get where he was coming from. And we were very careful and sensitive to his needs during that time. He didn't want to stop ministering. And he laid on the altar, he kneeled on it, and he cried. And he was petitioning the king on our behalf as a people.
I think there's video of that circulating on the internet.
You could tell there was a burden, and we took pictures. My husband and Dr. Michael Phillips took pictures, and they armor bared him, but they both had to armor bear him that night, because you can tell there was a weight. And that was our last trip to Bradenton with him. There was really, really pouring out a sensitivity of God, like, God, please let them get it. And there was a crying out. And as he ministered and touched the lives of people and laid hands, there was anointing on him that I don't think I'd ever seen before.
Wow. I mean, it probably would take you to tell us a little bit about Miles Jr. and Teresa.
Yes.
How do they take the news? I'm told they sat at the beach in the rain.
I think
hours.
like many of us, I mean, you think about it, it's your father, it's
Right.
your mother, it's your uncle,
Right.
it's your youth pastors,
Right.
it's your spiritual brother, it's the pilots that fly you around. To begin to even analyze or even understand where their mind could be, and it's just beyond us. It's merely us having to stop and keep them covered.
Right.
Because we don't know what it is to be them. We know what it is to be us, and it's
Right.
so hard.
Right.
So I try to do the same thing with them that I did with their parents,
Right.
which is to protect, to guard, and to serve them, to keep them safe,
Right.
as the charge is for our lives.
Right.
So in that, every area of their life, we were very mindful about, we're very careful on how we speak And we want to allow them the opportunity to share with the world what they do and how they feel. And they've been doing a great job at traveling all over the world and really expressing their thoughts and their feelings. So to express on their behalf, it's just, we don't know what it is to be them. However, we feel their pain. You know, we feel their heartbeats, and we love their parents. We sincerely love their parents. And in the moments that it's most difficult, you know, we feel them and we just send them a heart or some praying hands, and it's never, there never has to be words. If they need us, they know that we're here. We're always here. We'll always be here. We'll serve them until we close our eyes, because of the legacy and what their parents instilled and imparted in us. And they understand exactly how important their parents are to us, and how important they are and what they mean to us. So,
gosh, Monique, I want to let you go, but there's so much that I want to ask. There's so much that I want to know. Quick, I promise, it's going to be the last question. I promise it's going to be the last question. But if you were to tell the story to your children's children, your grandchildren, what would you tell them about the legacy of Dr. Myles Munroe?
I would tell them that they had a great grandpa, because it's funny, when our first grandson was born, I have the email. We sent a picture to Papa, and he was so excited. And he said, wow, my great grandbaby. I would tell them that here's a man that has gone before us and before you, and paved the way for your generation to understand God's original intent for the earth and God's purpose for your life. I would help them to understand that even though there may be doom and gloom at times, know that you have people that have gone before you, that have loved you before you even entered the earth. There's so much. There's so many stories that we would tell our grandchildren and children to come. His legacy will live forever. There are books, teachings, and our life experiences and our videos and our recorded times with him. There's so much to share, but they would know that the God of their great grandfather is real. Is real.
He was a real man. November 9th, 2014 was the day that we lost Dr. Myles Munroe and his wife Ruth, alongside 7 other people that were flying from Freetown.
From Nassau to Freeport.
From Nassau to Freeport.
Yes.
It's still very inconceivable, but it's already happened. It's 12 months now. Dr. Myles was a great leader, obviously a global ambassador and a true diplomat of the kingdom of God. His messages on purpose and leadership definitely shaped millions of lives all over the world. And today we're just talking about Dr. Myles. And I'm sure a year today, we still be talking about Dr. Myles. I'm sure 5 years, 10 years, even 100 years, centuries. If Jesus has not come, we still be talking about the legacy of Dr. Myles Munroe. Indeed, the world has lost a true man of God. And we're happy to have spoken with Monique Clark, who happened to be one of Dr. Myles' spiritual daughters. And it was a pleasure talking to you, Monique.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming.
God bless.
God bless. All right, so thanks for joining us. My name is Peter Nkansah, and you are on Oracle TV, and this has been the Spiritpreneur Business Network. You have a great time. We'll talk to you another time. Bye-bye.